What's up, everybody? We're here to teach you how to build NFL DFS Showdown lineups for DraftKings and FanDuel, specifically using our tools at OccupyFantasy.com, our daily plug, our Occupy model, our lineup builder, and our Showdown guide, all the tools that we talk about all the time on this channel. And if you're a member, you're obviously familiar with all those tools. But we get a lot of questions. How do I use them properly? What's the best way to use them? How do I build specific lineups for specific contests? That's what this video will do. For the next 45 minutes or so, I will answer some questions live. If you're watching this back on replay, go ahead and comment on the video if you have any questions that we missed. But basically, I'm going to go through how I would approach and how I do approach using the tools and building for a showdown slate. And I think it'll be extremely informative. So let's look at the tools so far. So we have the daily plug. Again, all the links to these are in the description. This is posted for showdown slates on Monday nights, on Sunday nights, and Thursday nights. So the primetime showdown slates, any random island ones we get on like Saturdays during the playoffs, we might have those as well too. But our writer Bismo, extremely successful sports investor, he writes the Monday and Thursday articles. Chuck, you guys know from our NBA videos and our best ball streams, he writes the Sunday night videos, the Sunday night daily plugs. And the daily plug, and again, if you're a longtime member, you know what these are. But it talks about the injuries to watch, our player rankings for different contest types. And you know what? I'm going to full screen this, by the way. Get my face out of here. I'll hop in if I need to of my face, but I will full screen this so you guys can fully see everything here. And as long as you can see it okay, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Let me know. The writer's slate thoughts, different metrics, different ideas they're thinking about for tonight's slate. And then low risk, high risk, small field, and large field, strategies and tips for the slate. It gives you a general idea of what you need to do in this contest type and then exactly what to do on this slate. And we have this for all the primetime showdown daily plugs. And then some bankroll and satellites to target. So we'll come back to this and I'll tell you how I use it. Next, we have the Occupy model, which I just showed on screen earlier in the video, but ranks every player, FanDuel, and DraftKings for all of our showdown slates, projected ownership for the primetime showdown slates only. And yes, so you can use this. All members have access to the model and the plug. Our lineup builder members have access to our lineup builder, which allows you to build up to 20 lineups if you have the standard lineup builder package, 300 lineups if you have the premium lineup builder package. And this is all the rules we talk about. You can put them in here, and I will show you exactly how I use this to build lineups for tonight's slate or for any showdown slate. And finally, the captain spot. This is our showdown guide. Our NFL strategy guide is free. Our showdown guide is a paid product. You can use code GUIDE50 to get $10 off. But basically, I, along with Chris Rooney, our NFL manager, partnered up with Justin Freeman of RunTheSims.com to build this exhaustive showdown guide. Now, we put this out in 2020. Obviously, some things have changed since 2020, but a vast majority of the strategies and the tips and the rules still apply. So you can easily use this as a reference guide for how to build lineups for showdown. Let's see here. I'll go to my section next. Okay. And we'll go through this. I'll show you how I build lineups for these slates. So let's get started. Let's see if there's any questions first, and then I will get started. Okay. So we'll start with small field GPPs. Well, actually, you know what? Before we even do that, let's just start with, I'm opening this up. It's the slate tonight. How am I looking at tonight's slate? So what I do, read the daily plug. And let's just go down to the very bottom. Oops. There we go. Okay. Let's go down to the very bottom. 1 to 2% of your bankroll, says Bismo. I trust Bismo. So a normal slate, right? If there's 3 to 5%, it's like, oh man, this is a pretty decent slate. So 1 to 2%, I'm generally following my same, what I normally play for showdown slates, right? Let's go back up. Let's read the slate notes now. Are there any obvious values? Are there anything we need to be made aware of for the slate tonight? And nothing really sticks out. So I'm going to play my typical strategy. I like playing small field GPPs. We'll talk about 150 max and large field GPPs. If you guys have questions about cash game and low risk lineups, if you want to see that process, I think it's extremely boring and pretty straightforward. But that's just me. And obviously, I'm not doing this video for me. I'm doing it for you. So if you want to see how to build a low risk lineup, a cash game lineup for showdown, let me know in the chat and I'll show you how I would do that for tonight. All right, so plug basically says standard showdown slate. Let's do small field GPPs. And Random Rules, longtime member in the chat, asked, if you don't have the lineup builder, how do you build small field GPPs using the Occupy model in the daily plug? Great question. So I am actually going to just pull the lineup builder up because it's easier to show on screen what I'm trying to accomplish. You can do this in the DraftKings lineup tab. You can do this in the FanDuel lineup tab. But the discussions I'm having, it shows some key metrics on the lineup builder in the single build tab that will be important for this video. So small field GPPs. What we're going to do first is we're going to go to the daily plug. And we're going to go to the DraftKings small field GPP section. We're building for DraftKings. I'll build for FanDuel next. All right, in general for DraftKings, start your lineup with a captain who isn't projected for more than 20% captain ownership. All right, let's go to the Occupy model. Let's sort by DraftKings captain ownership. That means Kamara, Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, what I like to do in small field GPPs, remember this ownership is for large field GPPs. Generally, we see these guys who hover around 20%. They basically get over 20% in small field GPPs. So I think these three are the ones I would exclude for small field GPPs. Now, if you do want to play those guys, you can't possibly think about building a lineup that has not Kamara, Mahomes, or Kelsey at captain. That's fine. You just got to play multiple lower-owned guys in your flex spot. That's fine. But if we're following the plugs advice, we're following the tried and true methods of building small field GPP lineups. Let's ignore those guys. Not Kamara, not Mahomes, not Kelsey. All right, we got that in our mind now. Let's go back to the daily plug. Fill 4 of your flex spots with high floor, high owned, low risk options. So now we're just playing the best plays. Basically the guys we talked about in the low risk part of the video, the guys who are up here in the low risk flex, low risk captain MVP, small field, high owned flex. These are guys. All right, let's get 4 of these guys into our flex spots. Cool, easy enough. Next, the final flex spot should be a less than 20% owned player. Easy. Do not worry about leaving salary on the table to be unique. Great. Easy. Okay, that's the general advice. All right, lower owned captain, mostly high owned guys in the flex, one cheaper option, one lower owned option, and then that's enough to get different in small field GPPs. Let's see what Bismo says for tonight's slate. For this slate, stick to a captain pool of Kamara, Mahomes, Carr, Kelsey, Olave, Hunt. So now, because of the options on this slate, Bismo, it is his opinion, and we trust him because he writes the daily plug, it is his opinion that we should include Kamara, Mahomes, and Kelsey in our small field GPP. Now, this is where you have to make some decisions, right? We're not going to give you everything. It's part of the fun is making the lineups yourself. So Bismo says it's okay. We can include those guys. So we'll build a couple different ways to see how it looks. He also says build a lineup to tell a story around your captain, of course. So some options for that are pair a running back captain with the respective defense or the opposing quarterback, and at least one pass catcher. Pair pass catching quarterbacks with the pass catcher captains with their respective quarterbacks. Pair quarterback captains with at least 2 pass catchers. Watson, Smith-Schuster, Gray, and Johnson will all be popular cheap plays, and at least one should be heavily considered in every lineup. All right, now we have a framework for what we want to do tonight for tonight's slate using the daily plug. Now let's go back to the captain spot, our showdown guide, and let's think about this. So we talked about telling a story, or Bismo did in the daily plug. Tell a story how this game is going to unfold, and here are some options to think about. If the game goes below the total, above the total, if the game is closer, what if a popular player fails? If one player exceeds value, who's less likely to exceed value? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So building a story. So read this. Captain MVP usage, we could talk about this. Leverage and projected ownership. This is a great way. So basically what these 2 sections talk about is to find out which guys we want to play at captain in our small field GPPs especially. It's where's the Occupy model? Where do your personal rankings rank these guys? And how does that compare to projected ownership? So let's look up the Occupy model. And let's sort by DraftKings OF Index. This is our proprietary rankings, obviously. So it has both quarterbacks, Worthy, Kelsey, Olave, Shaheed. Now, notably, Mahomes is number 2, not number 1. Kelsey is number 4. And Alvin Kamara is all the way down outside the top 10. So maybe this tells us to lean towards some lower-owned captains because we have Derek Carr, our number 1 option on tonight's slate, just 7% captain. Now, quarterbacks aren't necessarily the optimal captain choices in large field GPPs, but in small field GPPs, they often win those GPPs and satellites for tickets. So Derek Carr, great option. Xavier Worthy, number 1 receiver for tonight's Kansas City Chiefs, 5% projected captain. We have to like that as well. Then we have the Saints receivers, 9%, and underperforming wide receiver Shaheed at 6%. So pretty good options here. And I think I would probably, looking at what the captain spot is telling us, what the daily plug is telling us, and what the model is telling us, maybe we go for some of these lower owned guys at captain. So that's where I would start my build. All right. So let's pull up the single build in the lineup builder. And again, you can do this in DraftKings or FanDuel, whatever it is. We're doing this for DraftKings specifically now, but because I can pick one of these guys and it shows their salary and their ownership all in one spot, it's very easy to talk about these metrics. So Derek Carr, number one, let's say you like that option. Let's say you think that you're not too concerned about the offensive line injuries. Let's play Derek Carr captain. So I'm going to look at this, and this will show us the player ownership here instead of their salary. So that'd be nice to see who's going in our high-owned flex spots. Now, we also know, let's go back to the captain spot, and let's look at some rules here. Correlations rules. So don't use X players for captain, MVP Y. So basically, if this captain is the optimal captain, what does that mean for the rest of your lineup? Generally, if there's a quarterback captain, as the example here, if Tom Brady's MVP, use Mike Evans, Godwin, Gronk, O.J. Howard. That's how old the examples are from this guide. But basically, with a pocket passer like Derek Carr, we probably want 2 pass catchers with him, because if he's the optimal quarterback, he's probably throwing to all sorts of guys. So let's go back to the lineup builder or your DraftKings tab, and we see that Olave and Shaheed are the 2 highest projected players for the Saints, highest pass catchers. So let's play Olave and Shaheed. 33, 38%. That fits the high-owned guys. Now, let's see. Does Bismo say anything about if a quarterback is your captain? Let's see. Just pair quarterback with at least 2 pass catchers. Okay, easy. Let's go back. All right. Harrison Butker and Kareem Hunt are cheaper options here. Let's play those guys. Now we have 4,800 left for the last spot. Now, if we go to flex, sort by salary. It's really kind of gross here. Steele, Chiefs, Saints. We're not going to play the Chiefs defense against our captain quarterback. Probably aren't going to play the Saints defense in this lineup against an opposing kicker. And then everyone else is too cheap. Like maybe we could play someone like Justin Watson. What does this look like? 1,400 left per player. That's not too bad, right? We don't have to worry about salary as much here. The key is if there's 1,400 left over, who can we upgrade to that we're leaving out? And that's the key thing. So if Hunt is, let's see here. Kareem Hunt is $7,400. If we leave out 1,400, that means we can get up to 8,800. That means we're leaving out Travis Kelce. Do we think Hunt can outscore Kelce in this lineup? In this particular build, yes. So I wouldn't be that concerned about it. So it's not a bad idea to start building this way. However, the final spot is not low-owned. And we don't have a low-owned option that doesn't leave a ton of salary on the table in this particular build. So what do? Let's go back to the drawing board. We still need 2 pass catchers. Maybe we like Shaheed as our underperforming wide receiver, but we want to get the really popular, underpriced Jawan Johnson in our lineup. Let's see how this looks. So now we have 9,200 left. Let's remove Justin Watson. 12,600 left. That means we can fit anyone. We could fit Kamara. We could fit Patrick Mahomes. Now, Kamara is interesting here because we don't have another pass catcher in the lineup, right? We're not going to play Mahomes by himself because how does Mahomes get the optimal lineup without a pass catcher with him? So this makes sense. But let's say we wanted Mahomes. We still don't have a low-owned option here. However, if we take out Kareem Hunt, just look who is sitting there at 17%, less than 20%, Xavier Worthy. Now we have a lineup that fits all the rules, and we're not as worried about leaving $0 on the table in small field GPPs, especially when we have 2 low-owned options. So this is a great way. That's how I would use to start building high-risk lineups. All right. That took, 3 minutes? 5 minutes? Easy. All right, let's say we don't like Derek Carr. Now we can start this approach with, let's go back to captains. Let's look at the occupied model. And we see Mahomes 20%. All right, let's try Xavier Worthy, 5%. So Worthy, 5%. We want to pair him with his quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. So we're going to do that. Now we could do all sorts of things. We could play Kamara. We could play, let's try his kicker. Again, you don't necessarily have to play a kicker. But now the kicker is our second low-owned option. We could play whoever we want in these final spots. We like Juwan Johnson, remember? We still like him. 6,900. Now we could play Kareem Hunt. No, just too much for Kareem Hunt. Could play P. Ryan, but that gives us 3 low-owned guys. We don't need 3 low-owned guys in a small field GPP. So maybe Juwan Johnson isn't the guy. Maybe we compare another pass catcher with Patrick Mahomes. And maybe it's Juju, 21% at $2,800. 6,300, that doesn't give us much difference. What about Justin Watson? 3,400. Now we have 5,700 left for our final player. And again, this is for hand building. We're thinking about this hand building. We could go double kicker, Bucker and Groupie. That's not bad. Could play Chiefs defense. Lots of options here. We could switch out Kamara and go Derek Carr with the pass catcher. But this is the process I would go through for building small field GPPs using the plug, using the captain spot guide, and our model. Now, the lineup builder makes it a lot easier to hand build, but again, it's not a tool that is desperately needed for hand building these types of contests. All right, someone in the chat says they would like to see the cash process, so I would talk about that next after I figure out, or after I go through FanDuel. And David says, what are the top key factors when trying to decide between a player as a cash option or a GPP option? Really comes down to their pricing, their role, and effectively their ownership, right? If a guy is high owned, that's a cash play. If he's a low owned option, it means he's not projected well, which means he's not really a safe play by any means. Now, someone else, we had multiple questions in our Discord this morning about if you're playing these Sunday afternoon or random showdown slates where we don't have projected ownership in our model, or you don't have access to Occupy Fantasy, you're not using projected ownership, how do we figure out which players are higher owned and low owned? That can be difficult. You have to know some ball a little bit, or you have to be able to extrapolate main slate projections just in your mind and understand. If we have a guy who's too cheap on the main slate, or a guy who's projected to be a starter on the main slate, but for whatever reason he's cheap on Showdown, expect him to be popular. If he ranks highly in the model, probably going to be somewhat popular. But if it's just a random wide receiver 3 or 4, and if you try to build a lineup by hand and it's not someone you're naturally landing on, they'll probably be lower owned. So it's a much more difficult process without projected ownership. And sometimes, I have access to every site in the industry. We do that for competitive research to see what other people will be playing. And that's easy to see. If you can see, other sites are on this guy or this guy, we know that they'll be popular in Showdown on this slate. But obviously that's not feasible for everyone or anyone really, especially with the pricing of many other sites. So what you have to do is use a little bit of knowledge, use main slate projections, and figure it out. That way, much more difficult to do so, which is also why those slates are a little bit softer when it comes to casual competition. All right, let's try FanDuel now. I'll switch in the lineup builder to the FanDuel slate, and we'll look at small field GPPs. Now, this is just hand building. If you're using the lineup builder, I will talk about how I automatically do all this for small field GPPs. This is just hand building right now. So let's go to single build. We're on single build. Now let's go back to the daily plug, and let's see. This is small field GPPs. If the contest is 200 to 500 entries, play a low-owned non-quarterback MVP for less than 200 entries. There's no reason to get different in MVP. Play a high-owned top play, usually quarterback. Play exactly one quarterback in your lineup, not 2, not 0. This is from historical data. Typically, in these smaller GPPs, one quarterback is the optimal approach. Do not use a cheap player, less than $7,000 unless he is popular. These are very specific guidelines to build small field GPPs in FanDuel. It makes it extremely easy to build. If you have a low-owned player in your lineup, under 20%, feel free to use all the salary. If possible, leave $500 to $1,000 if all 5 spots in your lineup include popular players. Doesn't get much easier than that as far as a framework goes for small field GPPs on FanDuel. Bismo says, for this slate, this is why I like the daily plug, because it gives us the general guidelines, and then how does that apply to tonight's slate? Stick to an MVP pool of the quarterbacks, running backs. Kamara, Mahomes, Carr, Kareem Hunt. I'll trust his judgment. We'll just do that tonight. Build your lineup to tell a story around your quarterback. Pair a running back MVP with the respective defense or the opposing quarterback. So if we have Kamara, we play either the Saints defense or Mahomes in the flex. If you have a pass catcher MVP, like if we decide to play Chris Olave, we would want Derek Carr in the flex. Pair quarterback MVPs with at least 2 pass catchers because neither one of these quarterbacks run that much in particular. And then Watson, Smith-Schuster, Gray, and Johnson, still cheap plays. They're lower owned on FanDuel, but they still are good options and should be considered in all of your lineups. So let's try this now. Let's go back to the lineup builder. Again, you can do this in FanDuel. It's just much easier in the single build mode to hand build because you can see all the metrics at once. So in our lineup builder, or in our Occupy model, FanDuel, or Patrick Mahomes, by far, not only the most popular, but by far the best OF index play as well. This seems like a good play. Let's say we're playing a 150 person or 100 player league. Bismo says we don't need to get too different. The general advice says we don't need to get too different. So let's play Patrick Mahomes at MVP. Now we want to play him with multiple pass catchers. So that's who? Worthy, Kelsey, or those cheap guys. We probably want one of Worthy and Kelsey and then a cheap guy as well. I know a lot of you like Kelsey tonight. Let's play Kelsey. And let's say we want Juju, who Bismo pointed out as a cheap option. 7K. He's not below that 7K mark that we want to avoid in small field GPPs. At least $12,000 left per player. Now we can put, if we tried Kamara, let's just see. Remember, we only want one quarterback. We can't play Carr in this lineup based on the framework that the plug provides. Kamara, $7,000 left per player. That makes it tough because we don't want to dip below 7,000. We could play Noah Gray. He's 10%. He's going to be on the field. He fits the salary mold. And he's a low-owned option. If we look at ownership here, this could work. We have 2 low-owned guys, which is nice. Uses all the salary, so it's very unlikely to be duped in a 100-player GPP. So this could work. Now, if you're still scared about using all the salary and being duplicated, which I don't think you should be with that lineup, let's drop down from Kamara and let's go to Chris Olave. 11,500. We could play Bucker. And now this is interesting because we still have the one low-owned player. We have $2,500 left over. Typically, that's too much, but we can exercise that same strategy. Who are we leaving out by leaving $2,500 on the table? And does it not make sense to exclude them in this lineup build? So Bucker, if we take him out, we can get up to Worthy, Shaheed, Watson, one of these guys. That's it. Can Bucker outscore those 3 guys in this game script? Probably, especially if we already have Kelsey and Juju in the lineup. And Chris Olave. If Shaheed and Olave are in the same lineup, Derek Carr probably is too. So I think it actually makes sense. So that's what you're doing when you're looking at how much salary to leave over on the table. Can I upgrade? If so, does the upgrade make sense to exclude or not exclude based on the rest of the story I'm telling with my lineup? Now, if you're playing a larger GPP or you want to not play Patrick Mahomes, let's look at OF Index. Ours likes Derek Carr. And he is just 13% MVP. We're going to pair him with 2 pass catchers. We can go Olave and Shaheed here. Seems pretty simple. Let's try that. Olave, Shaheed. 11,500. Play Harrison Bucker. 14,000 left. If we sort by salary, we could play Kelsey. This was probably okay. Now, it has 1,000 left over and 1 low-owned MVP. It's probably okay. If it was max salary, maybe if it's going to be duplicated. But this is how we're thinking about it. This is how we're using the plug and how we're using the model and the lineup builder to build our small field GPPs. So let's take a quick break and see if there's any questions in the chat. And I'm going to get some more water for sure. And I'll get my face back on here too for you guys. Just for now. And let's check out the... And as Hawk Dark says in the chat, take Kamara out for Shaheed with Carr and you can fit Bucker. Yeah, so... Yeah, you can play around with the 1v1s and the 2v2s very simply. Yeah, and Geek Hippie's asking about leaving money on FanDuel lineups. Yeah, the captain spot goes through that. Let me show you real quick. And again, if you don't have this, code GUIDE50 get you $10 off. Or salary usage, captain. Yeah, salary usage. So there's a whole section here on how much to use in GPPs with MVPs at quarterback, non-quarterback MVPs, cheap players or not. So make sure you check all that out. The Prince says, large field bullet, is it best to find that one low-owned play? Yeah, generally. And in large field, you're looking for that generally less than 10%, not necessarily less than 20% owned player. And yes, people are asking about FanDuel higher entries. Yes, we will get to that next. Let me talk about how I use the builder to automate this process for small field GPPs. So let's go back to the lineup builder. And I'm going to use DraftKings for this example. You can use FanDuel as well. But I'll use DraftKings just because it's what I mostly play. But I already do have the rules and stuff set up. I was prepared for this stream for you guys. So let's get this full screen so you guys can see everything. Cool. Let's go to multi-build. Now, if you have the premium version of the lineup builder, you can utilize Slate Groups. I use this all the time for different contest types, different rules for different contest types. If you don't, totally fine, especially if you're just building one type of lineup. But I have a small field GPP tab a Slate group that I'm using that I already set up for you guys. So basically, let's say you can only build 20 lineups, right? Let's set in some sort of min salary. I don't want to restrict myself too early in the process. I normally leave 2,500, 3,000 left over. I can always move this up when I need to after I run some builds. All right. So let's look at, I normally use strict mode, but we don't have to use strict mode, right? Let's just look at the top few captains. Let's like them in the builder. And again, this is for building small field GPPs automatically using the lineup builder, how I would do this, okay? Let's just do a couple of these. Let's get like the top few guys here. Okay. Let's get some popular ones in there too, like Kamara, just in case. Flex, we got to like up some flex guys. Let's just get the quarterbacks. That's easy. Okay. Now, what I've gone in and done, the custom rules section. We have all these preset rules in the builder. And again, these are rules that we were just talking about when we were hand building. But now, the lineup builder allows you to go ahead and implement all these rules automatically. So I've gone through and done, I don't know, what does it say? 16 of the rules I want. Pairing pass catchers with quarterbacks. Not playing defenses against captains. What else we got? Not playing too many opposing players versus defenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all these different rules are implemented. A max of one kicker, max of one defense, because typically we don't go more than that. Now maybe we want to play two kickers. We can take out this kicker rule. That's neither here nor there. It depends on the slate. All right. So we got all the rules that we want based on the captain spot, based on the daily plug, and based on everything we know about Showdown contests. So this is what I do, right? If you only have 20 lineups, you can do this too. I do it with 300 lineups, and I'll show you how. But let's do it with 20 lineups first. Let's build these lineups. And then we'll see, and I'll show you. So once we build these lineups, and we see at the bottom, that's building lineups. All right, bring up the table view first. We have the card view as well. So what I like to do here next is sort by projection. Okay, these are the highest projected lineups that the lineup builder has spit out based on the rules we implemented. Let's look at the captains. Which captains are showing up the most at the top? So we got Carr, Olave, Worthy, Johnson, Carr, Hunt, Mahomes, Kelsey, Shaheed. So just initially, what this says to me is, wow, we got a lot of lower owned guys that are popping near the top, right? A lot of the highest projected lineups based on the model and the rules are Derek Carr, Olave, Worthy, Jawan Johnson. Very interesting. So maybe that's the route we want to go tonight. Maybe we want to go with the lower owned option. All right. So now, Derek Carr is the highest projected lineup. Derek Carr shows up a few times in the top here. So what I would do next, I would go back to multi-build. Let's lock Derek Carr at MVP, captain on DraftKings. And let's build 20 lineups. And we'll see what all of the Derek Carr lineups look like. Boom. 20 lineups, Derek Carr. They're all Derek Carr. And they're all small field Derek Carr lineups based on the rules we put in from the plug, guide, etc. Let's look now. And this is sorted by projection. Let's look at a player's ownership in each one. So this attributes tab, you can see their salary, their projection ownership. It shows up right here. So this has 3 low-owned guys. That's probably too much, right? So maybe we want to exclude this one. This one has 0% bub means. We probably don't want to do that. You know what? Let's make a rule. Let's go back. Custom rule. We don't want any trash players, right? I'm going to name a rule trash. Max of 0 guys. Under ownership 1. If you don't have an projected ownership, you're probably not going to be good for small field GPPs. Let's change that. Let's rebuild these lineups. This is how I do this every Showdown slate. So sometimes you forget rules. You have to go back in and put them in. All right, cool. We got those 20 Derek Carr lineups. Now let's look. Okay, now we only have 2 guys here, Worthy and Carr. That's probably enough. Has the highest projection. Ownership looks good. It's a 3-3 build. Is this the one we even landed on? I think yeah, this is the one we landed on when we were hand building, so that's pretty sweet. Cool. This was like a damn good Derek Carr lineup to build. Let's just lock this. Let's keep this for later, right? So we can lock this and we'll keep it. All right. Let's unlock Derek Carr and let's rebuild. I want to see who else was popping. at the top of those lineups. And again, this is with 20 lineups. If you have 300 lineups, you get a greater diversity of the types of lineups, which is why I like using that. All right, who else we got? Worthy, Juwan Johnson, Shaheed, Mahomes, Olave, Shaheed. I know someone in the chat said they like Shaheed a lot. Let's try Shaheed. Let's see what those lineups look like. Let's go back. Now what we're going to do, we're going to lock Shaheed, and we'll build 20 lineups. By the way, Mike is asking in the chat, what percentage is considered low owned? I was under the impression it's 5% or less. Yeah, sorry, we talk about that a lot, and we have our own definitions, as do many people. For showdown contests, we consider low owned as far as enough to differentiate your lineup as 20% or less. You think main slate type contests, it's 5% or less. Yeah, we consider it 20% or less. We consider trashy guys like 5% or less. All right, let's see. All right, we got our Shaheed lineups. Let's see here. What happened to our Derek Carr lineup? Did it not get saved? Where's our Derek Carr lineup? All right, we'll find it in a little bit. All right, anyways. So now we have Shaheed lineups. What do these look like? Carr, Shaheed. It's got a low-owned punt in Tipton. This one leaves $2,400. Maybe that's too much for small field GPPs, right? Maybe. But you see a lot of these that use Shaheed leave a lot of money left on the table. That should let you know. If Shaheed goes off and he's the optimal captain, there's a good chance the lineup looks kind of weird. So this is a great exercise to know that if I build a Shaheed lineup, whether it's by hand or whatever, maybe I can leave more salary on the table, right? And basically these first couple ones are Shaheed, Carr, the really good Kansas City players, and a New Orleans punt, which I'm not necessarily they're okay, right? Maybe for larger, smaller GPPs. Hashtag large, small GPPs. But maybe this one's a better one, right? And you may think that two guys from one team, one in the captain and four on the other, these are actually a pretty historically profitable build for wide receivers, captains. So not bad. You do something like this. Now this one only has the one player under 20%, but it's 2,200 left over. So it's a sliding scale. If you don't have a second low-owned player, you can leave more salary and still probably be okay as far as duplications go. So this is interesting. This comes down to, do I want to leave this much salary on the table? Does it make a lot of sense? Let's keep that idea in the back of our mind. Maybe we keep a Shaheed lineup. Let's say we're making 3 lineups for our 3 max small field GPPs, our 3 max 100-player leagues. All right, let's go back. Let's unlock Shaheed. Let's rerun this again. And again, I do this with 300 lineups because it'll take a little longer, but the lineup builder can find more appropriate lineups that way. All right, we got Kelsey. Who else we got? Jawan, Kareem, Mahomes. Let's just say we wanted to do Mahomes. Let's actually just do Kelsey as the highest projected left. Let's go back. And remember, Kelsey is a somewhat popular captain. So let's lock Kelsey captain. Cool, we got our Kelsey lineups. Let's see what they look like. Now this Kelsey lineup, and now I did not put in a rule for lower owned players to be mandatory in these lineups, which you can tell. So this one, 900 left over, no low owned plays, is probably too chalky for our small field GPP. Let's go to the next one. Kelsey, Mahomes, Jawan, Bucker, Worthy. I also did not put a rule in that we talk about in the plug is not playing 2 high owned pass catchers when one is the captain in small field GPPs. Because the idea being, if Kelsey goes off, how does Worthy also go off without Mahomes being the optimal captain? Maybe it's a price thing, but it's pretty unlikely to thread that needle in small field GPPs. Large field GPPs, yeah, let it ride. Anything can happen. This probably looks not the best. So how about I do that? I would go into here and make a rule. Let's say Kansas City captains. If either Kelsey is in the lineup at captain or Worthy is in the lineup at captain, let's make sure we have 0 of those guys in the flex. So Kelsey, Worthy. What this is saying is if the lineup builder builds a lineup with either Kelsey at captain or Worthy at captain, do not have the other in the flex. And this is a very standard small field GPP rule on FanDuel or DraftKings. Let's save that rule and we'll rebuild and we'll see what comes up next. Let's see. And Bill in the chat, what's up, Bill? Long time subscriber. What's up, Bill? Says he missed that. Did you say you prefer to run 300 lineups when testing what the builder will split out for small field construction? Yes, and I'll show you that next. I'll show you exactly what that means. Jake says, is total ownership more of a GPP thing, main slate thing? I normally, and here at Occupy, we don't even look at it that way. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not how I think about things. If you just think about the number of low-owned players per lineup you need, or the low-owned angles in your construction that you need, you don't really necessarily need to think about entire ownership of your lineup, except for large field duplications, which we'll talk about. Okay, so we got Kelsey here. Let's look at these. This one seems fine to me. This very first one. Highest projected, has another low-owned player, leaves a lot of salary. Again, a lot of these leave a lot of salary. So if you're not interested in the salary, you could always, let's just say, you know what, that's crazy. I don't want to leave more than $1,000 on the table in small field GPPs. Let's go back to the min salary. Totally fine. The builder is saying we can do it, but let's just, let's try this instead. Because in that Tipton lineup, we probably could have gotten up to Juju or Justin Watson, and they probably outperform him on, I would say, a vast majority of the basis. Let's see what these lineups look like. All right. We've limited that. Now we got Kelsey, Mahomes, Chiefs. This looks really good too. We talked about defenses being low-owned. We got our 2 low-owned pieces. Maybe you think Kelsey at 17% gets over 20%, and this isn't enough differentiation. Maybe we need 2 low-owned guys. We don't really have that many, except for we get down to here. Moore and P. Ryan, that seems pretty bad. Just a guy who needs a couple catches and a guy who's overpriced. Probably too much for small field GPPs. Here's one with Chiefs and Monroe. This isn't bad. But as we're looking through this, we're seeing that we're either too chalky or we're playing one bad play and another iffy play. And that's probably too much. So maybe we don't use Kelsey at captain. And this is how you go through this process. And then once you pick out your 3 captains that you like, or maybe you want to go all in on Derek Carr, you can save your lineups, export them, and put them into your lineups. Now, if we want to do 300 lineups like Bill said, or Bill was asking about how I do this for GPPs, let's check this out. Let's build 300. Let's open up the salary a little more. This is how I like to do it. So 300 lineups. And this will take a few seconds longer. So if you guys have extra questions while this is happening, I'm going to get some more water. And now, the builder is going to take longer the more rules you have. So let's just be patient here. And I'll save my voice for when we talk about cash games and large field GPPs. I'll bring up the captain spot just so you guys can, if you don't have it, you can read a page or 2 for free. Here's about cheap plays, so you can read about cheap plays. Wow, we wait for the builder to build 300 lineups. Let's check back. So this says only 89 of the desired 300 lineups are built. Let me make sure I'm on high randomizer. I am. So it's basically saying there aren't that many possible lineups, at least with these constructions, and that seems wrong, right? And the builder, in an effort to be speedy and not take forever, sometimes it'll just cut the build off. So what I do is I'll lock all these lineups. This saves all these lineups, and then I'll rebuild, and it'll add more lineups to the build. It's more of a efficiency thing than anything. Tyler says, how is projected ownership calculated? It's a very good question. So for these showdown slates, our lineup builder architect, Jack, and I, we carefully craft this. We look at industry projections. We figure out which players are the most likely to be used. We run lineup builds with those, and it spits out projected exposure for every player. And then we tweak it based on what we know about how the field actually builds showdown lineups, how the industry, maybe one industry site is more predictive than the other, or maybe we just have certain thoughts on, we know that this player can't possibly get up to 30%, we'll lower it down. So basically we take aggregate industry projections, run it through a lineup builder and optimizer, see what the field's going to do, and then we tweak it based on what we know about historical showdown contests. So in the end, it becomes very accurate. And PvP says so much skill in determining what rules to apply. I agree, and I think it's definitely an experience thing. And it helps to go back and look at historical winners and seeing, oh, this type of lineup is won. They don't have these two players together, or this type of construction has won. Let me see if the builder has built any more lineups real quick. 0. I think this is a strict mode thing or a non-strict mode thing. So I'm putting in strict mode. Put these captains in. I will go to flex. This is why I like the builder is mostly built for the 20 max. If you're using strict mode, non-strict mode, strict mode is for the degenerates like me who like to do everything. So let's just get all these guys in here. Okay. Anybody else we need to include? Yeah, for the hell of it, we'll include these guys too. I'm not going to include Jordan Mims or Prentice. Okay, let's try now. All right. Okay, cool. So yeah, so you can do that. But also, like I said, the captain spot guide has a lot of the rules you want to use, as does the daily plug. And what you could do, if you're just not sure, you just go through and in these custom rules, the stacks rule, the defense rules, you could just go ahead and apply all these in the builder and be fine. And then maybe limit yourself to one defense, one kicker, and then go through. You probably would be okay. Now, I don't know why this is only building 89 lineups. I must have a rule that is restricting me from building too many lineups. Let's see. Custom rules. I must have, and sometimes this happens. You build a rule incorrectly. I'm not sure which one it is. So in the end build, I'll build 300 lineups. And then let's just use it with 89, for example. If this was 300 lineups, sort by projection. And I would see which guys are popping up the most near the top. Mahomes, Carr, Worthy, Olave. And then I would choose those guys to be my captains for my player pool. And then you can also look at exposure, which guys are being built the most. Mahomes, Carr, Olave, Worthy, Kelsey. Make sure you have these guys in your lineup as well. All right. That'll cover small field. Let's do cash really quickly. We're already running an hour here. So let's cover cash really quickly. And then we will do large field GPPs. And we'll do this for FanDuel. Since I said FanDuel was extremely tough for tonight's slate, I'll show you. And I have a low risk or a cash filter set up as well. All right. Slate Groups. Oh, yeah, I do have a cash one set up. Wow, look at me being prepared. All right. So what I did for cash, I just like the two quarterback MVPs as Bismo suggested in the daily plug as our general. Let me see. Let's go back. Let's just see exactly what it says. FanDuel. Attempt to lock up all the scoring by rostering both quarterbacks, both teams starting running backs, filling in with a kicker. MVP, the most popular quarterback. That's Mahomes, right? So let's just do that. It's going to be Mahomes anyways. All right. The rules I set up here, very simple, was I don't want more than one player that's low owned, and I don't want any trash players. Remember, this is low risk. We're trying to beat half the field. So we don't want too many low owned players. That's all I did for this. Remember, it's hard to fit in both quarterbacks, both running backs. But if you're like, you know what? I think there might be an edge because of that. I'm going to play tonight. This is how I would do it in the builder. Let's build 300 line. Let's do 20 for expediency's sake. Let's maybe open up the salary. We don't want to leave too much salary in a cash game. Max 2,000 left over. Cool. Let's just do it. Samuel asked, did he miss the water sip section of the show? Samuel, I've been sipping water nonstop, bro. This has been going on behind the scenes. I need some more water. All right, so now this tells me only 8 lineups were built with those restrictions in place. That's not many restrictions, but it happened. So let's go. What is the highest projected Mahomes lineup? It's Mahomes, Olave, Worthy, Shaheed, Watson. Based on the rules, our lineup builder thinks this is the best Mahomes cash game lineup. Let's try it again. What if I build more? If I can build, let's just build 60 and see what happens. Now, again, because it's difficult, there may not be many lineups that actually fit the bill. And we get this question a lot, right? It's like, why do I build 20 and only 9 come out, but then I build 60 and 18 comes out? It comes down to the algorithm and the speed process. The lineup builder wants to balance between giving you as many lineups as possible and not spending forever in building those lineups, which is why you may see a difference in the amount of lineups that are spit out sometimes. So now we have a Mahomes lineup that's 116. Chiefs, Groupie, Carr, And again, do we want to include a defense in low risk, under 20% owned? Probably not. What's the next Mahomes lineup look like? A Saints defense? Probably not. And maybe we could just exclude defenses from our player pool if that's the case. Carr, Pirine, Bucker, Mahomes, Olave, Mahomes. Yeah. I mean, this shows how gross this slate is tonight. But let's just say we want to lock Mahomes. All right, we want Mahomes. He's the optimal MVP tonight for our cash games, we believe. Let's just try this and lock in Mahomes and see what we get out of that. This is taking longer than I thought, but it seems like you guys are enjoying this. If you are, let me know in the chat, and we'll stick around. Oh, you know what? No, I have decided personally I don't want a defense. That's too risky for me in small field. Or sorry, in cash games, low risk. So let's go back to the player pool. Let's just stop looking at those lineups. We'll get them out of there. So Chiefs, no, exclude. That's the exclude column. Saints, no, get out of here. And let's rebuild. This is the great thing about the builder. You can do these things. It's much easier than trying to do it by hand. And again, you can do it by hand with all the rules. It's just that this can do it a lot faster than a human could do it with all the restrictions. So, all right, God. All right, we got all the damn defense out of there. This one looks pretty good. Mahomes worthy. Carr, Bucker, groupie. We know kickers have been the skeleton keys to every showdown slate past 3 years. Highest projection. Now, it doesn't have the highest ownership. However, what I would do, remember, this is very key. If you remember one thing about low-risk contests and using the builder, this is ranking these lineups. These are sorting this by projection. However, remember, our projection is the OF index, which is built for high-risk contests. This highest projected lineup may not be the best highest projected lineup for a cash game because it's built on ceiling. So, I will always say this. If you're building low risk, it is better to sort by ownership than by projected points. If you remember one thing about that, remember this. So, let's sort by ownership. This is saying this is the best lineup to play based on, because ownership is much more accurate in terms of median projections than ceiling projections than our OF index. That's the fact because of the way we built OF index. So if we look at this, we see two lineups near the top. These two lineups have the same highest projected ownership of 173 combined. They have Mahomes, Hunt, Pirine, Mahomes, Olave, Hunt. Interesting. So when we have two lineups that are the same ownership, we might as well go for the upside. So let's take the projected 108. Mahomes, Shaheed, Bucker, Olave, Hunt. Let's play this in our low risk contest tonight. Difficult, but again, maybe you think you have an edge, and maybe that is the case. Maybe there are edges when there isn't an easy, identifiable, optimal low risk lineup. So put in some rules, lock the MVP that you think is the most popular, or is the most popular for FanDuel, low risk, and then sort by ownership. That's the best way to build low risk. Hope that helps. Oh yeah, everyone loves this. They want me to stay forever, so we will continue this. All right, guys, any final questions about low risk contests? I will stick around for, you know what? Give me 60 seconds. I'm going to run and get some more water. It'll be silent. Take a look at if you want to copy some of these lineups, go for it. I'll put the captain spot back on screen. Let's look at, let me see here. Let me find an interesting section for you guys to read while I get some more water. Here's some rules that I was thinking about. I'm going to get some more water, and in the next 60 seconds, while I go get more water, if you have more questions about how to build cash game lineups or low risk lineups using the builder or how to hand build, put them in the chat. All right, we're back. We're reloaded. Plenty of water sips on deck. All right, I don't see any more questions or comments about low risk. So we will go to high risk. Large field is what everyone is here for most of the time. The largest GPPs, how to build 20 max, 150 max, or a single bullet for the 500K to first on DraftKings, 100K to first on FanDuel. All right, let's go to lineup builder. Let's go back to DraftKings. That's what I've been used to the most. Again, we'll look at FanDuel as well. Yeah, you know what? We'll stick on FanDuel because someone in the chat specifically asked about FanDuel. So let's see it. All right, let's change the slate groups. Let's go to large field GPP. This is, again, a slate group that I built earlier in the day to prepare for the show. That way We don't have to spend time making rules on here. All right, so what I did first, I lowered the min salary way down. Again, we'll build lineups, so maybe this is too low of a salary. We'll see. Max salary. So why did I choose 59K? Great question. Let's go to the daily plug. And we see large field, high risk strategy, FanDuel. Max of 59,000 total salary, using less for chalkier lineups and or higher risk reward tolerance. Also, let's go to the captain spot guide and let's look at salary usage. All right, here we go. On FanDuel, quarterback MVP, use at most 59K. For cheat code quarterbacks like Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, this is when Mahomes was actually good at football. Whether MVP percentages exceed 40%, use at most 58.5. These are based on duplications and historical results on FanDuel GPPs. Now, if you're using a non-quarterback MVP, use at most 59.5 of your 60K salary cap. For unpopular MVPs that are rostered less than 5%, you can use the entire salary cap. So let me show you what I did. Let's go in here. Let's go back to the lineup builder. I set the max at 59 period, 59 flat. We have a special salary usage tab, and I made some rules. Now, in an average lineup, the lineup that spits out, it's going to look at 59K. However, this special salary usage will change that based on the player in the lineup. So if Xavier Worthy is in the lineup at MVP, we now allow it to go up to 59.5 max. If Mahomes is MVP, we drop it to 57.5. If Carr is MVP, we make it 58. So this is a really good way to slide the duplication, slide the amount of salary you leave based on the MVP or the flex player. Now, for someone like Mason Tipton or Jody Fortson, these trash plays, look at Jody Fortson, 0% owned tonight. In Jody Fortson lineups, we're allowed to use the whole salary. No one's going to play Jody Fortson. We're not going to worry about duplication. So we have all these rules in based on salary. Again, this is something you got to do every slate. It's very important. If you're carefully building large field lineups and you're worried about duplication, then you should be. Okay, let's go to the rules section. 16 rules active. I put a lot of the rules in from here, from the pre-built section. Put a couple other rules in based on what I know about Showdown, what the strategy guide says. Max players versus opposing defense. Don't play. Do I have multiple defenses? No, I don't. We don't want two defenses in the lineup. We know that it rarely wins, if ever, on FanDuel. So let's look at both defenses. Max of one defense on the lineup. We'll allow two kickers because clearly that happens. All right, let's see. Let's filter out just MVP. And so what I did here, I thumbs up most of the top guys, right? The most realistic guys. So let's just run this really quickly. 150 lineups. This might take a minute, so we'll see. Because the next section, people ask all the time, how many MVPs or captains do I use when building 20 lineups or 150 lineups? How do I choose them? This section right here is going to show you how. Let's go to the captain spot. This is our Showdown guide. Remember, it's on the site. Code GUIDE50 for $10 off. There's a section on this. I know that because I wrote this. Captain usage. And as I said 4 years ago, we get this question all the time. So there you go. This is the number one rule. This is, again, we have those frameworks in the daily plug that makes it really easy to, I need to do this, this, this. I will build a profitable small field lineup. How many captains or MVPs I use? It goes back to this rule. Have leverage on every captain MVP you include in your player pool. What does that mean? Read this really quickly. If you like a few of the less popular captain MVP choices, like tonight, you like Shaheed, like Olave, like Carr, try to double the amount that the field has in your own personal lineups. So let's go back to the builder just really quickly. Derek Carr, 13% MVP. If I like Derek Carr in my lineup and I want to use my captain player pool, I want at least 26% Derek Carr. Again, this is very basic and this is elementary, in fact, but it's a great rule of thumb if you're really lost on how to build 150 lineups. 26% Derek Carr. We like Olave. We want at least 8% Olave, right? We like Harrison Butker. That's crazy. Let's get a couple percent Harrison Butker, captain, MVP. Really weird game. We like Worthy. We want 10% Worthy. We like him. But we're doubling at least everything. That's one option. And you just go with a handful of these guys. Just make sure you get them all. Now, if we do this, we can't possibly get overweight on Mahomes, so we'll have to X him out of our MVP pool. Let's just see what this looks like. Let's try this approach first. We'll build lineups, and then we'll go to the alternate approach. Let's see, Kamara, 30%. We're not going to be able to get overweight on him. Let's get out of here. All right, let's try it. And we'll see what this comes up with. So if you're not sure, you're like, I don't know which ones. Should I play Mahomes or Kamara? Or should I play these other guys? I have no opinion. The plug tells me, but I'm not really sure. Build lineups without min exposures in mind. Let the builder do its thing. And you'll see, if all the lineups at the top are Mahomes, it's like, well, shit, maybe I should just play Mahomes in all my MVP lineups. Or it's like, oh, it's kind of spread out. I'll get overweight on these lower owned guys. Let's try that. So that's how I would do that. All right, we're almost at 150. Come on, let's finalize. So by the way, so if you do that, if not, if you really like a popular captain MVP, quarterbacks on FanDuel, like Mahomes tonight, go really heavy on them. More than the field's projected exposure and only have 2 to 4 captain MVPs. And that's not even aggressive. You might just play one MVP. I know Jack, who built the lineup builder, has multiple single game wins on FanDuel. There are often times he will play just one MVP 100% in his 150 lineups. So you have to be aggressive sometimes. Let's say the builder. Sometimes it'll get caught up like this. It happens from building so many lineups. You just give it a quick refresh, and it'll pop up. All right. So now it built let's call it our leverage MVP build. Let's go to total position exposure, sort by roster position, MVP, and we see that we have 2 times the MVP field on Carr, 3 times the field on Olave, 11 times Worthy. Bucker is 0, so this is going to say 0, but we have 11% Bucker. We have twice Kelsey. We have 10 times the amount of field on Shaheed, and we have a little bit of Group E2 as well, and we're 2 times on Hunt. This would satisfy it. We're leveraged on every MVP in our player pool. Now, if Mahomes or Kamara is not the optimal MVP, we have a really good shot of finding the optimal MVP with our run here, right? Good idea. Let's say we went the other route. Let's go back to multi-build. Let's remove these min exposures. Let's reset exposures. Done. Very quick. All right. Let's keep these guys back in. And let's say Mahomes is our guy. And how I think Mahomes will be our guy, we have so many low-owned options tonight with him. Juju and Gray and Watson and all those guys. We think that there are enough ways to get different with Mahomes MVP that you can make it work. So we'll just lock him in. That's the wrong button. We will lock him in, and we'll play 100% Mahomes. Let's say you're not that, you don't have that much risk tolerance. Let's double the field at least. Let's get 84%. We'll give ourselves some outs anyways. Who can we still double the field on? We can't get double here, not double here. Oh, let's go MVP. Can't double. We can still get 8% of Olave. That gives us 92% total. We can get another 8% Xavier Worthy. So we got 84, 8, and 8. We still got some outs if Mahomes is not there, and we're still leveraged on the other 2 guys. We'll build those lineups. So that answers the question on how many captains and MVPs to choose in your player pool for 150 max or 20 max. 20 max, you generally want less, just because you only have a certain amount of lineups to work with. But the same concept applies. When you have 20 lineups, you like Mahomes, you play him in 18 out of 20. You throw over the field. You want to fade Mahomes and Kamara, you can still get 4 Carr lineups, 2 Olave, 2 Shaheed, and you're still getting overweight on the field. Cool. Now we look at our position exposure. We got an MVP. We have 8 times the field on Olave. 2 times the field on Olave, 2 times the field on Mahomes, 8 times on Worthy. We are leveraged at MVP. We only have 3, but it still works. So that's how we do that. Now, again, if I go back to you're not sure, you have no clue. Let's reset our exposures. I don't know, dude. Brian, I worked all day. I came home. I got 30 minutes to figure out which MVPs to use in my 150. Totally understand. You put the rules in. You like all the MVPs. You run the builder, and I'll show you how to pick. Put this back on screen while we wait. All right, we're still building. Again, if you guys have questions about specific lineup building strategies or what I've talked about so far, throw it in the chat. If not, we'll keep going here. And again, the comments or the sections I've been showing are the sections that I've written, but Justin from Run the Sims does a great job in his. Chris does a great job in his. This is mostly just about the high risk stuff that we're talking about in this video, mostly contained in these sections. Cool. All right. What did the builder think? If it's just randomly building, let's just see. The builder thinks get overweight on Olave, don't get overweight on Mahomes. But again, we put in a bunch of MVP, so it's going to look like this. Instead, let's look at the cards, the card view. Actually, let's look at table view. And let's sort by projection. Let's see which lineups are popping up near the top with our rules. Kicker captain, that's wild. Okay. You want to do that for tonight? Go for it. Mahomes. A lot of Mahomes lineups. I mean, tons of Mahomes lineups. This kind of justifies what I was thinking. It's like, the builder, the top 50 lineups, half are Mahomes, if not more. Maybe we go the overweight on Mahomes. But you could also take a look. Oh, there's some Carr, Worthy, Kelsey. Carr, Worthy, Kelsey. Maybe we just go Carr, Worthy, Kelsey. Lots of different ways to play it. All I know is it does not say Kamara, so you can lock him in for the optimal MVP tonight. So there you go. Let the builder decide. Let the builder tell you. Look through it. Highest projected lineups, who's popping up the most. Go that way. All right. That's captain and MVP. Now, for rules, again, I put in most of the rules. And I'm a little lax compared to small field. Small field, we don't have to be perfect. We just got to get what's most likely within that story that we're telling. In large field, weird stuff happens. So you can be a little looser on your rules. You still want to pair a quarterback with a pass catcher. You still don't want to play 4 guys against a defense, basically. But we do see weird lineups win. So you just want smart rules that don't restrict you too much in here. So here I have 17 rules active. I think in small field, you could probably get up to a little higher number, or maybe even a little lower number here in high risk, in large field. So, all right, this is what we're going to do now. This is the important part. Let's say we're going with the Mahomes route. We're going to go 100% Mahomes. We feel really strong about that. Let's build our 150 Mahomes lineups. Let's do this. And I'll show you what a very important step is. Let's go to the guide. Fine-tuning. This is after the lineups are built. Now, the builder is not going to give you good lineups every time. Just because we put in rules, there's still going to be some weird lineups and bad lineups even that are in our player pool. So we're going to look for weird lineups first. Once our lineups are built, we're going to look for lineups. That doesn't make any sense. I don't care how many times this game is played. This lineup is never going to win. So we'll look at that. We'll check our exposures. And then we'll investigate lineups near the minimum and maximum salary threshold, and we'll check player pairs. We're going to do all these things. All these we can do with the lineup builder. So we'll start with the weird lineups first. All right, we got our 150 Patrick Mahomes locked lineups with our rules in place. Let's go to our card view. Sorted by projection, these are our best lineups. Okay, how do we find weird lineups? Let's sort reverse order. Let's look at the worst projected lineups. And I'm going to add ownership in here. All right, this very first lineup, it leaves $6,500 left on the table. That seems crazy, but it can win. But can this lineup win? We have 3 guys under 10%. That's probably not great. When you consider, why is this lineup weird? Okay, let's look at salary view. Noah Gray is $7K. Mecole Hardman $6K. Juwan Johnson $7,500. How do we know this lineup is weird or bad? Because with this lineup, that means Juwan Johnson and Mecole Hardman and Noah Gray all have to outscore every single guy that is plus 6,500 on their salary. So let's go back to here. Let's look at flex, sort by salary, and we see Mecole 6K. So he has to outscore everybody from Foster Moreau all the way up to Chris Olave. Can Mecole do that in a game where he gets more playing time than expected? Sure. However, can he do that while Foster Moreau also does that and Juwan Johnson also does that? No, that can't happen. Right? That's not going to happen. That's insane. So what's wrong with this lineup? We see 3 guys under 7K, under 7,500, that's probably too many. Let's make a rule. Add view rules. Crazy salary. Max of 2 guys under 7,500. Let's go 70-50 to include, or 75-50 to include those 7,500 guys. Now, maybe we'll get rid of those types of lineups. Let's go back in. Let's build. See, this is what I'm saying here in the captain guide. Perhaps sometimes you forget to implement a rule, or many times you didn't even think to consider this rule. Because I didn't think, why the hell would it give me 3 guys under 7,500? Sometimes it does with the rules we gave it. So it's an easy fix. We go back. And this is most important. Maybe you might have to go back to the drawing board if a good chunk of your lineups are like this. It's like, well, I need to change the salary range or I need to do something. All right, these are almost built. If you guys like this content, give us a thumbs up. All right, now we're going to sort by the worst projected ownership, worst projected lineups again. Let's see here. Mahomes, Gray, Watson, Johnson, Kelsey. 7K. This is kind of the same problem, right? Can Gray and Johnson both outscore 7K or higher? I don't think so, dude. I really don't think so. Let's look at ownership. Maybe ownership will tell a story here. 10, 10, 9. Maybe we want, you know what? Let's try a different rule. We want a maximum of 2 guys that are under 10%. Because 3 seems too crazy at this point. Because most of the 10% guys are cheap or like weirdly priced. You know what? We're back to the drawing board. No one said this is easy. We have to go back and do this all over. All right. Under 10%. I'm just naming this rule, custom rule making. Max of 2 guys, under ownership, 11. So the most a lineup will have is 2 guys under 11%. Let's save the rule. And we are back to the drawing board and we are rebuilding. Because this is important. If you just try to run the builder, we have so many people that sign up, run the builder, and say, I lost. And say, well, no shit, you lost. You didn't put in any rules and you didn't check for any lineups. It's not the builder's fault you gave it no restrictions. It's not our fault you gave it no restrictions. It's not going to automatically just give you the best lineups. So, no, it's not. Especially for $11 a week, right? We're just going to predict the future and give it to you for $11 a week. That's not how it works. You got to do some work. All right, we're almost got these rules in. And again, I'm doing this for FanDuel now, but this very easily applies to DraftKings as well. Card view, worst lineups now we got. All right, let's see this one. Only has 2 guys under 11%, so we know it worked. Now it says 6K left over. Can P. Ryan, Hardman, and Gray outscore these guys? Let's see. Let's look at the salary view. Oops. Gray, Hardman, P. Ryan, 6K. Let's look at it. Flex. So that means Gray and Hardman both have to score guys much more expensive. And P. Ryan has to outscore guys like Kelsey, Olave, Hunt. It seems pretty bad. That seems tough to do. We have to go back to the drawing board. Anybody have an idea on a rule we can make for this one? It's a little more difficult. Let's see. We could just raise the salary ceiling. It seems like a lot of these lineups that are bad are 6K or higher. Let's just raise the salary ceiling. Let's not worry about this. Let's make it 55. Stop making headaches on these lineups to build. Now, we are increasing the chances for duplicates by tightening the salary range, but also less headaches for us trying to figure out how to get these lineups with 3 bad players out of them. Because there are some lineups with 3 bad players that are good if they're near max salary or something. While we're thinking about that, right? So we're going to look for these weird lineups. We'll get them out of there, right? And then we're going to look at the lineups near the minimum maximum salary thresholds. This is kind of similar on the minimum end for looking for weird lineups, but the maximum end is a much different story for what we're looking for. Let's go back. All right, now the worst projected lineups. Why? Oh, you know why? You may be like, the builder didn't do it. This builder sucks. You know why? Kind of all these salary rules in here. Remember? When these guys are in the lineup, it changes the salary. Let's change them in on all these too. Because if none of these guys are in there, it'll adhere to 55. But if any of these guys are in, it adheres to 52.5 as the lowest. That's why. Maybe like, what the hell does the builder doesn't know what it's doing? No, it's because we put this in before and didn't change it. Let's go back in. And I promise you, Jack, who's won all the FanDuel GPPs, he does the same thing. So just realize I'm explaining this, and we've been here for basically an hour. And we've only been doing high risk, large field for 30 minutes, 25 minutes. So while all this seems like a lot, once you get into a groove and start doing more of these slates, you can get these done in 20, 30 minutes max, putting these rules in. I'm just explaining it, showing you different ways that it may fail, and how to build the best possible lineups. All right, let's see if this works now. This should give us realistically good lineups. At least good enough to enter. If this was 1 minute before lock, we had to download the CSV. Okie doke. Yeah, 5,000. It worked. So it seems a little better. We still need Gray, Juju, P. Ryan. Still doesn't seem great. Maybe we just do like a max of those three. Max 2 of Gray, Smith-Schuster, P. Ryan. Or max 2 under 8K. We change that again. Because those do seem like the best. Let's, you know what? This is the final one I'll build, and then we'll go to the other ones. What was that crazy salary? Max 275.50. Let's change this. We gotta get P. Ryan out of here, dude. 80.50. I think we should be fine here. Samuel says, do you ever X out lower projected players? I will sometimes, but if I'm building 150, you have to keep a lot of these guys in there. They're the keys to winning. If you're building small field, you're building 20 max, I get it. Like, let's just, all right. Sort by OF index, flex plays. Who's lower projected here? Let's just scroll down. We're going to go to the very bottom. Jarrett Wiley, 3.6. He has 1% projected ownership, so at least like someone else besides us thinks he might be okay. Include him. Jody Fortson, if he's active tonight and no one's going to play him, I will play him, right? But like Bub means Adam Prentice, he's a fullback, barely gets on the field. Bub means wide receiver 5. I feel fine Xing those types of guys out. Let's go back. The only reason I'm keeping Jody Fortson, even though he's 0%, no one else thinks he's good, we think we have something on him. I don't have anything on Bub Means or Adam Prentice, right? But the plug mentioned Fortson. Let's keep him in the player pool. Let me go back really quick. I'll show you. Jordan Mims, 0%. I'll get him out of there. So maybe like these 0% guys, get him out. Unless you have real risk tolerance. Okay. Okay, we have a realistic lineup here. Lowest projected has Noah Gray, Juwan Johnson. We think Juwan Johnson has a real role, can outscore some guys. Noah Gray if he catches a touchdown. Okay, this looks fine. It looks much better. I think we're okay. Maybe we don't want Noah Gray and Wiley together. We'll make a rule for that later. Let's change let's adjust here. Now we're looking for maximum salary thresholds. Let's sort by salary. That's lowest salary. Highest salary. Is this too popular for the largest GPP? This has 0% Jody Fortson. I think we're okay. I think we're probably fine. This has 1% Moreau, 10% Gray, 500 salary left over. This will be close, but because Moreau's only 1%, we might be okay with this lineup. As far as like not like 50 other people have. If it's 10 people, if you're okay with that, totally fine. This one has 1% Sky Moore, it's probably fine, 1% Moreau. And this is because we put those rules in place, those salary-specific rules. These all look fine to me. I think they're all good as far as duplications go. I'd be fine doing this. These lineups seem good to go for 150 max into the FanDuel GPP, locking Mahomes at MVP. Phew. That took a few runs, but we got there. Let's check one final thing. Check our exposures and our player pairs. Remember, this isn't a comprehensive list. There are other things you can check, and as you build lineups or just look through your lineups, you'll see that maybe some other things need to be added to the list. Let's go here. We'll go to our total exposure. And we'll go by, obviously, we have 100% Mahomes. That makes sense, right? Because we are locking him into MVP. Who else do we have a lot of? All right, Kamara, stud. Kelsey, stud. Worthy, pairs with Mahomes, wide receiver 1, cool. Justin Watson, 33%. That's pretty aggressive. That gives us 3 times the field on Watson. Maybe you're not okay with that. Let's just go back. Flex. Let's see. Justin Watson. Let's sort by, we actually sort by exposure here. Easy. 33%. I only went double. He's 9,500. It's going to take a lot for him to get there. Personally, I'm not okay with 30% Watson. Max exposure 20. Now, at the most, we'll get is 20%. Cool. Let's go back here. Watson. Sky Moore. 33% Sky Moore. This is wrong and bad, and we should not do this. Objective, he's 1% owned. That seems like, unless you have some crazy read on Sky Moore tonight, probably shouldn't do this. Where's Sky Moore? Well, Sky Moore is 1%. Do we want 30% ever of any 1% projected player? No. The builder likes Sky Moore, so maybe we keep this at 10%. Like, that's a lot still. But the builder likes him. I'll trust the builder on this one. But if we look at it, let's filter here and just look at guys who have less than 2% ownership. Less than, this will work for now. And let's sort by ownership. Carson Steele, he kind of sucks. I don't want more than 10% of him. That's fine. Sky Moore, 10%. Moreau, we have 8%, 6%. These seem reasonable, but if we lower exposure on Moore, we might get more of these guys. I don't want more than 5% of any of these guys. They're all very fringe plays. So I'm going to change my max to 5 on these guys. And now let's see what happens. Now we should have exposures more in line with an appropriate risk tolerance for 150 max. And again, maybe you feel different. Maybe you're like Jody Fortson. I'm going to take a stand on that dude. He's caught touchdowns from Mahomes before. I'll opt out to 10 or 15%. That's your risk tolerance. No right answer here. I'll put the rules back, or the checks back on here for you. Anything else? And the process doesn't stop once the contest locks. These are the things you want to look at. You download the CSV from FanDuel or DraftKings, and you start looking at, FanDuel is obviously much more difficult, but DraftKings, were your lineups duplicated? How much? What did other people in your contest do? What were the ownerships? Were they correct? Were we right? Did they change much for your particular contest? Keep that in mind for future. And then once it's done, how many lineups did you get near the top? Winning is great, but that's literally a play or two, sometimes a yard or two. And that's completely out of our hands. But if we get a lot of lineups near the top, that means we're probably doing something right. So keep track of how many top finishes you're getting, whether it's top 5, top 10, top 100, whatever it may be. All right, now this is saying only 107 lineups of the 150 are built because we limited our exposures to those cheaper guys. Remember, we need cheaper guys for Mahomes. We already put some salary rules in place. The lineup builder is saying it's going to be tough to get to 150 with those restrictions. Let's make sure the lineup builder is not tripping. Let's lock these lineups. These will keep these 107. Let's see if we run it again if that changes. So obviously it's going to keep the 107 we built. It will try to build any more. Remember, it stops sometimes for speed's sakes. Fingers crossed it gets more than 107. If not, we're going to have to make some tough decisions here. Zero lineups are new. That means we are too restrictive. So let's go back. What I like to do is look at max exposure, compare that to the actual exposure, and if the actual exposure is over that amount, that means we're using too little of those guys. So let's see. I mean, it really wants to use Justin Watson. Like, it's like, hey, we need to get some more Justin Watson because we're trying to use salary too with Mahomes, with his pass catchers. He doesn't have that many expensive pass catchers. So you know what? Let's ease up on Watson. The builder's saying, you know what? I'd rather have personally 50% Watson than like 15, 20% of these other really trashy plays. So let's trust it on Watson. Maybe we'll go to 15% Sky Moore. And let's see what the builder does. Let's see if that gets us to 150, and hopefully it does. We might end up with like 60% Watson, but then we'll have some more decisions to make. Oh, yeah, slowly. We got 113, 117. Oh, yeah, we're getting there. Let's see how many it gives us. 120. We might get to 150. This is the biggest sweat you'll have all night. 126. Oh, we're going there. We're getting there. Okay, cool. This looks pretty good. We'll check our exposures after, and I think that'll pretty much wrap this up. So if you guys have any final questions about things I've covered, things I haven't covered, I'll rapid fire answer those, and we'll get out of here because I've literally been sitting here for an hour and 45 minutes. Come on, get us to 150. Oh, we're so close. Let's go back and check. Of course it wants us to use more Sky Moore. Let's give us 38% Watts. That's not bad. Again, I would prefer more exposure than I would like to a higher priced and higher projected player than I would on a lower priced and lower projected and lower owned player. So Steele, let's give him 15. Fortson, remember, maybe we have a read on that. We'll go up to 10, and then Sky Moore will go 20. And then that should give us the rest we need. But that's just about do it. So once we do that, we'll have our 150. We've checked them. We've checked our exposures. And we should have a pretty good set of 150 lineups to throw into a 150 max GPP. Again, all of this applies to a 20 max GPP as well. The top of this part, we talked about small field GPPs, whether it's hand building or it's using the lineup builder to automate that process. We had a segment about cash games or low risk contests, how to maximize it for ownership as opposed to our OF index because of what our OF index represents. And now we talked about all the rules and the checks and balances we're making for 150, whether it's FanDuel or it's DraftKings, using the guide, using the daily plug, using the Occupy model. Let's see. And sometimes I'll go back, right? Let's see. Hold on. Daily plug. Did max salary? Yeah, we talked about that. Let's see, but did our writers say anything else? I mean, they also have this Justin Ross, Nico Remigio line. Maybe we throw those guys in on DraftKings if they're available. It has a Jody Fortson comment, and again, that's why maybe we used him a little more. Mason Tipton, maybe we use him a little more because the plug is talking about him as well. So these are guys that, if we're getting restricted towards the end there, we can still use these guys. All right, cool. We're almost there. 150, we can raise a little bit of exposures here. We'll get to it 150, no problem. We'll look at our total exposure. This looks a lot better than what it did before. Cool. All right, guys. I appreciate everyone sticking around for the entire time. That was crazy. But hopefully this was extremely helpful for you. Again, I'm going to cut this up. If you're watching this on replay, this was live streamed on October 7th for the Chiefs and Saints game. If you have any questions after this, make sure you check out our Discord, occupyfantasy.com/Discord, where you can chat with us and other members of the community. Everything you saw on screen here can be found at occupyfantasy.com. The lineup builder, the plug, which is posted for primetime showdown slates, Occupy model for every showdown slate, projected ownerships just for primetime. And the captain spot, the showdown guide with me, Justin Freeman, Chris Rooney, where it is a little outdated as far as some of the percentages go and like the historical data, but all the strategies still remain the same. Captain spot available on our site. Guide50 is a code you want for $10 off. Cool. All right, guys. I appreciate everyone watching. I truly do. It means a lot. And hopefully this was extremely helpful to you. Again, if you have further questions, comment on the video or Discord. But Brian from Occupy Fantasy, thank you everyone for listening. And good luck in tonight's game and in future showdown contests.